Greetings everyone and welcome back to Starsector, where we are hurriedly returning to Ankira with a cargo hold full, possible exaggeration. It's probably more of a box that's been hastily shoved inside a vent somewhere, considering the illegal nature, but full, quotes, of AI cores, which will hopefully help us with our Wii connection problem. We have been disconnected from the rest of the sector in what is more or less a micro version of the collapse, where the sector itself has been disconnected from the rest of the domain to various levels of joy and, of course, despair and horror of the citizens trapped in the sector. Now, let's go ahead and see what our contact on Ankira has to say of our success with the Domain Era probe. Solid work. I'll get my technicians working on this right away. In the meantime, this should cover your expenses, hopefully with a good amount left over. Well, I mean, 8,000 credits is 8,000 credits, thank you very much. But more important, to me at least, is the improvement with both the faction, the hegemony, and with this contact in particular. Now, bear in mind that every contact, every person that you might have any dealing with in this game will have a role within their faction. In this case, they're a citizen. You might have a military commander. You might have someone very high up in the chain of command. And they are a station commander even as a citizen, which is an interesting one. But they've already taken one of the gamma cores, and I'm very, very happy for that. I was a little bit concerned they might just take all of the cores that we had. I'll send you the stabilization algorithm with the core when the core works one up. Once you have it, it should be a simple matter of running it using your fleet's drive field as a means of interacting with the jump point. However, there's still a matter of the miners guarding both jump points out of the system. And you said their forces are significant? Well, it's all relative. Our security detachment could handle them easily, but as I've mentioned, it's tied down defending Ankira. But the question I have, though, is what is it defending Ankira from? We're disconnected from the rest of the sector. It's not like pirates from outside can come in and run a surprise ambush on Ankira whilst you're dealing with the miners. They are the only threat here. Your fleet, on the other hand, you might be able to handle them with some stellar piloting and a bit of luck, but it's best not to take your chances. I agree, especially not when there's an alternative. What's the alternative? There's a ship graveyard around Tetra. Ships that were deemed not worth the effort to restore, awaiting bulk transit to one of the ship-breaking facilities elsewhere. Now, though, they'll serve our needs. Go there and recover all the ships you can, and break the ones you can't for supplies. Make sure to bring enough crew to operate the recovered ships. Perhaps an extra 100 or so will do. You'll need to transport them somehow too. Here, take this mud skipper transport. Consider it part of your reward. We have got the ISS Venusian. Is that how you say it? Venusian? Mudskipper class civilian transport. Thank you. I'll return with the ships. Very well. Now that actually just gave me a bit of an idea. Oops, that's the wrong screen. We want R for refit. Can we? Oh, we can. Now, you can change the role as well, or you can just write whatever you want. Oh, that's fantastic. So this is a civilian transport, and I might have two that I've equipped differently, and I could change that to differentiate between them at a glance. But we can rename them. Ooh. Can we? We can rename our officers. Well, I know what I've got to do for the next 5 minutes, because I completely hadn't prepared myself. I will be preparing a name list. I've just got to hook up a new file for this game that will patch into the master name list, and will hopefully generate a couple of names. I shall be right back. And welcome back. Now, I will confess that I indulged myself a little bit, and this is just a name. This is the ISS Harlock, because I cannot be the only one that is getting strong Space Pirate Captain Harlock vibes from my character's avatar. I cannot be the only one. Please tell me I'm not the only one. We are also now flying the ISS Oak, piloted by Obsidian Mist. And finally, we have the ISS Nico Shanna. Thank you ever so much for your patron support. Now, with that done, we're going to do a very quick cover of the refitting screen. I'm not going to go into great detail, and by and large, I'm going to try and pace things out because it can be so easy to overwhelm with the frankly enormous density of information in this game. So we're going to focus on just a couple of important things that I feel are necessary. First and foremost, this is a civilian hull. You'll notice that our kite is also a civilian hull, but it has been militarized. The Nico Shana has no shield. This is just a transport vehicle. You don't want this to be in a fight, but that doesn't mean you don't want to equip it to be in a fight, because it is a wonderful world where everything goes your way and only the things that you expect to happen, but that is not always going to be the case. So what we're going to do here is we are going to drop all of the capacitors, all the vents, and take this off. I'm not going to pull off the insulated engine assembly, and the reason why never mind about that. The reason why I'm not going to pull that off is I don't actually think I can put it back on. No, I don't have the means to use, or rather to install, that kind of engine assembly. So since we've got one, I'm going to keep it. But you will learn various things based on skills and based off learning the schematics for adding them. But the first thing to realize is the only weapon that this has is a small ballistic turret that is facing the back. Is basically for point defense. So we're going to leave that as was equipped. It's a civilian grade hull. It's got insulated engine assembly. It increases the durability of the ship's engines by 100% and the ship's hull integrity by 10%. The ship's sensor profile is also reduced by 50%. That's actually a really, really good hull mod. Perhaps we can pick up the schematics to use that ourselves in the future, but that will mean that it's going to be even harder for anything that does manage to shoot the Nico Shana's engines to actually disable them. That is very important. Now, there is a bit of information over here that we need, and that is the maximum burn. It's the kind of in the middle of the middle column. Just below fuel capacity, maximum burn of 9. We'll notice over here that the maximum burn here is 10, but that is +1, so it's 9 normally. And we've got the Harlock, which has 10 naturally. It's a military ship. It's got military grade thrusters on it. Now, the reason why the burn rate here is 10 is because of the militarized subsystems. This removes the penalties from civilian grade hull and increases the maximum burn level by 1. It increases the flux dissipation and adds an additional 10 armor, but does increase the crew requirements by 100%. Now, in this case, this was built into the hull, and then that's the case with the civilian grade mod. I can't take that away, but I can add other things to it. And a militarized subsystem will be useful because your fleet can only move as fast as the slowest ship. Makes sense when you think about it. What's the skeleton crew? 5. So we would be doubling that to 10, but that still gives us a comfortable buffer of 90 passengers. So I'm happy to add that in. We want to pop that in there just to allow our little ship even more chance to get away. It's got a decent top speed as well, though let's see how that fares with our other ships. Actually, it's nowhere near the Harlock. The Harlock is very fast and it can teleport short ranges, so it's a very good ship. But realistically speaking, if this ship gets into a fight, it's probably because we're trying to flee. That's about the only time that this ship would ever be deployed into combat. All I wanted to do is to move fast away from where the enemy are. Its point defense cannon is just to shoot down missiles, which are probably a lot faster than the enemy ships, and to try and allow it to escape as fast as it can. So with that in mind, there is one other subsystem that we can install. Now it's going to use up all of our operation points, and that is the unstable injector. This increases the ship's top speed in combat by 25, 20, 15, and 15 SU per second, depending on the hull size. Interferes with weapons targeting and other vulnerable systems, though, reducing weapons range by 15%. We don't really have weapons. Our point defense is already a short-range weapon, so reducing that by 15% isn't going to have as big of an effect on something that's got a massive range, where you might be cutting it back by hundreds of units. And also fighter replacement. We don't have any fighters, so the negatives are pretty negligible for this ship, but it will give us 25 extra speed. Now, the fleet sizes are frigate, destroyer, cruiser, and capital ship, as far as I'm aware. So since this is the one on the smaller side, we'll get a good boost to our top speed. And I think that's about the best that we can do. Now, you could add capacitors, so we could store up more flux. We could add vents, so that we can vent our flux. However, the weapon flux per second is telling us that even if this was firing flat out, we can still dissipate that faster than we're accumulating it, which is good. If we had a shield, we don't. The shield, if it was active, would generate flux, so that would also have to be considered, and as the shield was absorbing damage, it would also generate flux. And some weapons might generate flux, I think. I can't be 100% on that. I'm not entirely sure. Perhaps someone in the comments could help me out with that one. I believe, though, that generally speaking, the only time you generate flux from damage is if your shield is absorbing impacts. But by and large, we don't really need to worry about the flux on this. We're just running away, and our engines don't generate flux. So all things told, I think that will be a decent little ship there, or at least for our purposes. It's certainly not going to slow down the fleet. Now, with that done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to spend 2 supplies to fully repair all of our ships, and then we're going to go and buy the crew that we require. Now, I would like to get more supplies, but right now we're in a scarcity situation. We're cut off from the main sector. We're not getting any new supplies of the various goods, so these things are incredibly expensive, so we don't want to purchase those. We were told to get about 100, but I think we can go a little bit further than that. We went a little bit over, but there we are. 160 crew will be quite nice. Now, we do have some things that we can sell as well. The transplutonics. Now, you'll already notice that we're paying a tariff of 30% to the station for using the open market. If we go on the black market, however, we're not going to pay any of that tariff. And I kind of like the idea of not having to pay taxes on selling this. But there are 2 things to consider. No suspicion level. The more and more valuable trades you do on the black market, the more attention you're going to draw to yourself. If your transponder is on when you engage with this dock, that means they know who you are. So that suspicion will start to ramp up, and as it gets higher, patrol ships will just start randomly stopping you because you're kind of a shady sort. You're on a list of people who may or may not be doing shady dealings at the port. But additionally, if it gets high enough, then it may actually impact your overall faction standing. The faction may decide that, well, you're just, going rampant with the black market on our ports. We don't like you as much anymore. Conversely, doing a lot of legitimate trading with them, they might like you a little bit more. So that is something definitely to keep in mind. But one way around that, and what we just did there, is if you want to hide a lie, hide it inside a truth. If you want to hide a big lie, hide it inside a bigger truth. We sold about 500, maybe 6, coming on towards 600 worth of transplutonics to the black market. But we bought significantly more's worth of crew. So, all things said and done, it doesn't really matter as much. They're not going to be paying as much attention to us. If you do have to use the black market and you do trade so much that it rises your suspicion, if you can afford to just buy a bunch of stuff on the open market, it's going to cause that suspicion to go down a little bit because, even if they know that you're using the black market, you're still making them rich by using the open market, so they're going to turn a blind eye, perhaps, or they just might not notice because it's like, oh, well, I thought they were shady, but look at them buying all of this normal stuff. They can't be scallywags. Everyone knows that a true scallywag will only buy on the black market, but they clearly are okay. So, word to the wise. If you do need to use the black market, don't be afraid to buy a couple of things on the open market just to give yourself a good cover story. But with all of that said and done, it's time for us to make our way down to Tetra and the ship graveyard. So let's get over there now. We should still be able to burn all the way up to 20 because we upgraded the engines on the Mudskipper. And once we get there, we will hopefully find ourselves some new ships. Just slow down a little bit as we travel through. There we go. And out the other side. Now I can just do a quick sensor pulse to show everything. My lord, so many derelict ships. And we got a little bit of EXP for that as well. Okay, now, word to the wise. It isn't just as easy as showing up to these ships and deciding you want them. Bear in mind what it's going to cost to have them. The first obvious cost is you're going to have crew to crew them, but you're also going to have to pay to bring up their combat readiness once you get them. So try not to grab everything. I know it's very tempting. You've got a handful of cash and you've been just released into a vast warehouse of sweets. Everything looks delicious, but don't eat it all at once. Otherwise, you will be very unhappy later on. In this case, you will run out of supplies, and then your ships will start falling apart around you. And the cold, hard vacuum of space doesn't care that you just couldn't help yourself. It was just this one time. No. It's going to punish you. Now, what have we got? We've got quite a few things here, actually. We've got a Dram-class tanker. We've got a Taurus-class freighter. We've got a Hammerhead-class destroyer. A Buffalo Mark II class destroyer, a Kite class frigate, Wolf class frigate, one of the ships we've already got, another Kite, a Lasher class frigate, and a Condor class light carrier. Very tempting, though I would probably caution against going for too much of the heavy ships all at once. These ships aren't going anywhere, so you can come back to them later. I would also caution, try not to make too specialized of a fleet. Don't just go only for the biggest ships that you can get. Do appreciate that smaller ships have certain bonuses. A frigate is a lot faster than a destroyer, or much more faster than a cruiser, for example. And if you're chasing something down, you're going to want frigates more for that job than the big chunky ships. Also, you have to pay to deploy any ship into combat. So the smaller force that you can use to get the job done, the less you have to pay for using it. So with that being said, and since I already like the Wolf, let's go ahead and investigate this carrier over here. Sorry, this, not the carrier, they're literally the opposite, this frigate over here. Salvage crews boarding the wreck discover that many essential systems are undamaged and the ship could be restored to basic functionality. If not recovered, the ship will be scuttled, and any fitted weapons and fighter LPCs will be true. I love the LPCs. It's basically DRM. It's DRM for 3D printers. And from what I understand of the lore of this game, the collapse, the being shut off from the gate network was only as traumatic and cataclysmic for the people in this sector as it was, because all of a sudden the factories couldn't ping like the license servers back in domain space to check that you had a legitimate license to build that amazing future heal bed that could cure all ills. And so it was like, no, I'm not going to print it. I don't know that you've got a legitimate license. I'm not going to make this thing for you. You could be any scallywagging off the streets. No, you're not getting this thing. I don't care how many of your children are ill. You're not having the Wonder Bed. No, you're just going to have to make do with a wooden cot that you had to put together with a stone hammer, because I'm not going to print you a hammer either. And it's effectively DRM gone wild. That is why this cataclysm was so bad. And I find that so ridiculously funny and terrifying at the same time, because it kind of is the direction we're going in. It's cautionary tale. But I would like to consider this ship for recovery. It's going to have some faulty mods. It's got a faulty power grid and erratic fuel injector. Not so great. If we bring up the stats here, we can see that it uses more fuel than normal. Its sensor profile is bigger than normal. That's the numbers in the orange brackets there. Flux capacity is down by a good amount, and flux dissipation is down as well, which is very unfortunate. But it is already equipped with a heavy blaster, an ion cannon, and 2 Harpoon medium-range missiles. That's not bad at all. I think we're definitely going to be picking you up. Now, it's going to cost 10 supplies to repair the recovered ships over time, and 15 crew to man the ship. But yeah, sure, go ahead. Let's grab this one. There we go. Now, if we go straight into... Oh, never mind. Some of the ships in your fleet are at dangerously low combat readiness, below 20%. Deploying these ships into combat is likely to cause critical malfunctions. Bear in mind, pay attention to the fact they said critical, because there are different thresholds and different kinds of malfunction that will happen at different thresholds of combat readiness. These could deal damage, disable some weapons and engines for the entire battle, and cause further critical malfunctions during the deployment. It's recommended that you let these ships recover before using them in combat. Ships regain combat readiness over time, and friendly stations offer a quick way to do so and effect repairs, as well as hire additional crew if needed. You can check the combat readiness levels of your ship in the fleet screen. Let's head over to that right away. Oops, like if we have a look here, The ship suffers from degraded performance and runs the risk of permanent and damaging malfunctions if deployed. It is regaining combat readiness at 10 per day at a much higher rate of supply usage, which is kind of bad news bears for us. One thing I will say, I'm not going to do it right now because we don't really need to, but you can go in and refit on the fly. Refitting a ship in space will cause it to lose some combat readiness. The amount lost depends on the extent of the changes made and is indicated by the dimmed portion of the combat readiness bar. We're probably going to do a more extensive overhaul of whatever ships we pick up when we return to Ankara. So we're not going to do it here, but if you were out in space and the best time to do it would be just after deciding to salvage it, because it's already so low on combat readiness, you're not losing anything. So that's just a tip there. But whilst we're in here, we can have a proper look at what these do. Okay, so this increases fuel use by 50% and supply costs to recover from deployment by 20%. Yikes, that's a bit nasty. And then the faulty power grid. Whether due to battle damage, manufacturing defects, or cycles of poor maintenance, this ship's power grid will never be capable of achieving peak performance. Flux capacity reduced by 20%, flux dissipation rate reduced by 20%, sensor profile increased by 50%, and supply costs to recover from the deployment reduced by 20%. Oh, sorry, that's what it said in there. It wasn't increased, it was reduced. Basically, it's already kind of banged up. You can only repair it so far. Now, when we go back to the station, repairing it will only bring it up to its full combat readiness and repair the hull. It won't get rid of these. That requires a restore, and those are expensive, very expensive. That is not going to cost you supplies. That's going to cost you cash, and a lot of it. So bear that in mind when you're deciding what ship you want to pick up. Now, I'm fairly certain we don't want to pick up any kites, so I'm going to use this opportunity to go ahead and strip these down for more supplies and hopefully parts. A Derek Kite-class shuttle drifting through space. Oh, wow. Okay. If we wanted to recover it, we would have to use a story point anyway. The recovery effect, let's see. Consider whether the special measures might be taken to recover this. Sometime later, you hear back from your chief engineer, who mumbles about being a miracle worker to someone off screen before noticing you've picked up the call. Commander, looks like we might be able to pull this off. Though I'll say you're not going to find what I'm going to do in any manual, and it wouldn't pass any inspection, but then again, we're not in the hegemony fleet, so it'll fly. We don't want it to, but that's marvelous. I'm a miracle worker. You're lucky to have an engineer like me. But no, we're going to go ahead and salvage it. Now, this is the difference when you've got enough crew and enough machines to actually salvage something. Everything's always got a base 25% efficiency, plus 75% because we've got the heavy machinery we need, plus 50% because of personal skills that make salvaging more efficient. We've got no ships in the fleet that make salvaging more efficient, but you would get a benefit there as well. And because we've got enough crew, it is multiplied by 1. So it'll only affect it if you've got not enough crew. But go ahead and begin the salvage operations. Let's have a look at what we get. Decent amount of supplies. Certainly. I mean, we're only using 2 per day, and a large amount of that is strictly because of the wolf right now. Let's go ahead and grab this one as well. I am really tempted to pick up a destroyer, though. I'm going to be honest. We're not going to try and recover this one. We're just going to go ahead and begin the salvage straight away. Got exactly the same odds of getting that. There we go. Now, our other options is another frigate. And I do like having kind of a wolf pack of frigates. Fast, nimble, we can deploy quickly, we can chase individual targets down, take them out, move on to the next, so on and so forth. The tankers would make operation at long range. You're going to want a fuel tanker at some point. You just are, because the distances in this game necessitate having a ship dedicated to carrying fuel for other ships. The freighter, we could get into trading even. So you could set yourself up reasonably well. It is so tempting to grab the carrier, but I think that might be biting off more than we could chew just yet. So instead, what is our crew like right now? How many crew do we have versus how many we need? We've got 44 out of 160. Let's go ahead and see what this destroyer is going to be like, the Hammerhead. Let's see about you. Your fleet approaches a derelict ship, a derelict Hammerhead-class destroyer drifting through space. showing some signs of damage, though determining whether or not it's recoverable will require closer examination. Salvage crews boarding the wreck discover that many essential systems are undamaged and the ship could be restored to basic functionality. Let's have a quick look at you. So much lower damage because it's not utterly gutted, and you know, the engineer is basically managing to make it fly with duct tape and happy thoughts. In this case, it is, you know, just a little bit of duct tape required. And it's only got damaged weapon mounts, which is quite nice, so we're not going to have to be paying too much to keep this running. It's got one harpoon medium-range missile. It's got two small missile docks. Actually, mounts, sorry. Two medium ballistic mounts and four small hybrid mounts. Now, there's different terminology. Things like hybrid might be ballistic and missile, or it might be ballistic and energy, or energy and missile. Universal means it can be any of them. But otherwise, they got a specific word to show whether it's like ballistic missile energy, or ballistic energy. It's got two railguns, so I think maximum crew's 100, skeleton crew's only 50. We could absolutely take this. Okay, well, let's consider the recovery. It'll cost 46 supplies to recover the ship over time, though. Oof, that's a lot. That's all of our supplies. Like, literally all of our supplies, actually. So we're going to have to tear apart something big to justify this one. I think we're going to have to pull apart the Buffalo if we take this. But I kind of like it. I don't really have a strong enough knowledge of the different types of ships to know whether the Buffalo is better than this. Maybe I'm making a terrible decision, but it's the decision that I've made, so we're going to go ahead and grab it, because if I leave, I'll salvage it, basically. Right. Okay. Oh, and now it's telling us to return, apparently. Okay. But first, so that we don't run out of supplies on the way, because we're burning through 5.6 a day. Buffalo Mark II class destroyer drifting through space. Let's explore. Okay, this one would have required me to use a story point to recover it anyway. Well, let's have a look at what that would have been. Is it exactly the same story? Yes, more or less. This would have been deeply broken, degraded life support, and damaged weapon mounts, but let's have a quick gander. Medium missile. Okay, so it's a big missile. Two small ballistic, two small energy, and three small missiles. So much more of a missile boat, whereas the Hammerhead is much more of a ballistic weapons platform. Okay, well, interesting to note. A lot less maximum crew, though. Wait. Oh, no. The maximum crew would be 40, and the skeleton crew would be 40. So it would the moment you lost anyone on this ship, the ship would be undercrewed. Obviously, your crew are kind of spread out between your ships, but this doesn't even have enough personal crew quarters to have everyone on it that is needed to make it run properly. So we would have to have a dedicated support ship with it, just so the crew could sleep there and then go across to the ship to work their shift. No, I think I will just go straight and salvage this one. Decent amount of supplies, decent amount of weapons too, actually. That one is a long-range point defense laser. I like. We will take it. Okay. Given that, I don't think we're going to grab anything. Well, I'm tempted for the last class frigate. Tell you what, I'm tempted enough. We'll have a look. If it's too many crew or too many supplies, we're just going to scrap it, but I'll have a peek. The rest we're going to save, and we'll check in. Oh, this, again, would need a story point. Interesting. I don't know if that's related to it just being that much. Like, it'll use a story point if it's a really good ship, and so it wants to try and make it a little, you know, you've really got to commit to wanting it. Or it's just, yeah, this was just the most damaged of it. Because look at those damages. Compromised armor, faulty automated systems, and unreliable subsystems will require 50 skeleton crew. We can probably make that work. Let's just check the weapon mounts. 2 small missiles, 5 small ballistic. Alright. Well, I'm somewhat tempted. A lot of armor lost, though. It's almost a third of its armor gone. Take a look at the report and make the decision. It would need more supplies than we've currently got to finish recovering it. Now, one thing to bear in mind is when you spend story points, you might get bonus experience. And the way that works is, as it explains there, bonus experience doubles your experience gain until it's used up. 100% bonus experience means enough to earn an extra story point, eventually compensating for the use of one story point entirely. The reason why it has that is that story points are kind of balanced around a kind of a set point. For example, I'm not sure what action it was balanced against, but there's a specific action in the game that story points were kind of envisioned as, you could use a story point for this, and this is going to be an epic, this will change your run kind of event. And that's what story points are made for, to actually make your run unique to you, for it to be a unique story. If you spend a story point on that, you get nothing back. You just use the story point up. But but to give it a little bit more flexibility and perhaps a little bit more flavor, you can use it on things that are considered much more frivolous, all the way down to straight up 100% bonus EXP. At that point, yeah, you can use a story point on this, and you'll get a story point back in a little bit of time. It'll eventually pay itself back. You're not actually spending that story point. You're loaning it out. You're kind of paying it forward in a way to yourself. And that's the way I see it. We could go for this. I would need to scrap something else, or, well, actually, we can use this as a demonstration of one other thing that we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab this. The ISS Taliesin. Wow. The game knows I'm Welsh. That's a very, very important Welsh name, both mythologically and historically. That is a really the warrior bard, the poet Taliesin, precognition, all sorts of things. Wow, that is an auspicious name. I approve. Right, okay. So with that in our fleet, we're now going to be burning through supplies a little bit too fast. What I can do, and this is something you can do if you just don't have enough people aboard, enough crew, but you really want to take that ship, you can mothball it. Mothballed ships can't be used in combat or repaired and do not provide any fuel, cargo, or personnel capacity. Mothballing a ship will reduce its combat readiness to 0, but it won't suffer problems in normal travel at 0. Normally, if your fleet's combat readiness drops below a certain threshold, things can just start going wrong as you're flying around, outside or inside of combat. But this won't contribute to that. Mothballing a ship will reduce its combat readiness to 0. Restoring it will require time and supplies. So if you had full combat readiness and you mothballed it, well, you still got to pay to bring it back up to full combat readiness. You don't get any of those materials back, but you do stop spending any ongoing maintenance on it. So let's go ahead and mothball this. Boom, there we go. So we're paying nothing toward its repair. So as a result, our supplies have dropped back down to a much more manageable level. And once we get back, we'll try and bring that back online. Okay, that's all that we're going to do down here. I think it is now high time for us to head back to Ankira and report a job well done. I think we've got a decent little fleet coming together now. We'll go dark just to move through. Oh, I went dark a little bit too late, sadly, but that's fine. There we go, and we'll also burn. Now, interesting enough, emergency burn. Let me just pause that for a second. Increases the maximum burn level by 8, reduces sensor range by 50%, and increases the range at which fleets can detect you by 50%, consumes 7.5 fuel, and reduces the combat readiness of all ships, costing up to 7 supplies to recover. Also prevents combat readiness recovery while active. Some ships don't have enough combat readiness to safely initiate the emergency burn and may suffer damage if the ability is activated. So effectively, our mothballed ship is at such a low level of combat readiness, it will always be at 0, that you can't safely emergency burn at this point, because it's not ready. It's not ready to engage. Its thrusters are maybe slaved to the thrusters of the rest of the fleet, but they're running on ultra low levels. If we emergency burned, it would tear itself apart trying to keep up. So that's definitely something to keep in mind with that. Some of the ships in your fleet are low combat readiness now, below 40%. Their weapon systems and engines are likely to suffer malfunctions and become temporarily disabled during sustained use, making them less capable in combat. Notice the difference between when it was below 20%, where it could be, yeah, this gun just isn't going to fire in this fight. It's completely disabled. The engines too. In this one, it's like, oh well, every now and then they're just going to fritz. So you might be willing to go into a battle with your combat readiness below the 40 mark, but you probably don't want to do it below 20 ever. We'll just continue on. We're fine at the moment. And also, I can have a sip of my space tea. There we go. Right, let us see what we can do once we say hello and that we've brought the ships. Welcome back. Bunch of rust buckets, aren't they? But put some weapons on them, get a proper refit done, and with a dedicated crew, they'll do all right. It's no worse than what the pirates have got anyway. I mean, that's fair, actually. Speaking of weapons, yeah, was just about to talk to you about that, actually. Not much to buy on the open market, but we have some stores. I've already ordered the local storage space to be assigned to you, and some suitable weapons transferred there, along with enough supplies to speedily bring the new ships back to full combat readiness. Use them to outfit your new ships. Make sure you've got enough crew for a full complement on every ship, and then break the rogue miner defenses at the inner jump point. Once this conversation is over, press R to open the refit screen. After selecting a specific ship, you can press V to auto-fit. Oh, that's interesting. Pick a desired loadout, and the ship will be automatically refitted to match it using what weapons are available. In addition, you now have access to storage at Ankira, and some weapons and supplies have been placed there. To access it, click on the storage button in the trade screen. Okay. I take it you've got stabilization algorithm then? Correct. These cores seem like they can work miracles sometimes. Let me transmit the results. Good luck to you. If you fail, well, we'll have to send the security force to do the job, and then it could get very messy. It's good to know you're already working on Plan B. Well, actually, kind of, yeah, as it happens. That feels like I was being sarcastic, but no, I would straight up say, well done. Good. I hope you're also working on Plan C, all the way through Plan D. And Z. I meant to say Z first. One would assume that the D would come after C, unless you're a genius who's working on Plan Z without having had to go through the requisite other letters of the alphabet. You just went, yeah, I've got this plan, and I've got this ultra, literally, it's impossible for this to fail, but there's certain consequences I don't want plan. But I'll probably throw together a sprinkling of other plans in between these 2 points, but I've got a backup for all of the backups. The backup to end the necessity for any further backups. I just don't want to use it. But it's there. I've got it. Rest easy. We will be fine even if you get turned into space jelly on the back of a bulkhead somewhere. Come now, it's not so grim. I have every expectation you'll succeed or I wouldn't send you. Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. But it's my responsibility as commander to plan for every eventuality and not rely on miraculous savior. Fair, you know? Hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Now, about those miners. The two fleets guarding the jump point will aid each other if you engage one when the other is nearby, so it'll be an easier fight if you manage to separate them first. If you can't, it should still be a fight you can win. Okay, copy that. I'll be back here when the job's done. Right, now then, let's head on back to check on storage first. We've actually got LPCs for a limited production chip that allows the carrier's nanoforges to produce fighters, replacement parts, and related ordnance. And 100 supplies! Yes, please, thank you very much. That is marvelous. Okay, well, given that, I'm just gonna... I can't. It's illegal to put in storage. It's so illegal, I can't put it in storage even. I'll put all my weapons in storage, though. I will also go ahead and sell that on the black market. Fine. You can turn a blind eye. I'm doing you a solid, you know. We will take the supplies. There we are. Now then, time for us to properly refit our fleet. And whilst we're here, I'm going to unmothball... did I not mothball it? Oh, did I not mothball it? I may not have. That would have been very silly of me. I thought I did, though. But apparently everything has been repaired, and we can now refit everything. I'm a little bit concerned that I was a bit of a derp there, but oh well, it's part of the course, I guess. Right, we've got 3 new ships that we need to name, and indeed to equip. But before we do that, I would like to see the auto-fit. I've not used this before. So we've got Assault... Heavy blaster, ion cannon. Oh, it actually shows me what it would be. Graviton beam, harpoon, medium range missiles, tactical lasers. Heavy blaster, ion cannon, sabo, short range missiles, safety overrides, hardened subsystems. Oh, it's overridden. Point defense. 3 long range point defense lasers. Pulse laser, swarmer, short range missile launchers, close support, assault. Okay, oh, that's kind of cool. Use ordnance from cargo, use ordnance from storage, buy ordnance from market. So buy weapons and fighter LPCs from the market if docked at one. Ordnance from your cargo will be preferred if that option is checked and if the alternatives are of equal quality. Allow black market purchases, upgrade weapons using extra OP. Use weapons better than the ones specified in the goal variant if there are ordnance points left to mount them. We'll add flux vents and capacitors up to the number specified in the goal variant first, then upgrade weapons, and then add more vents and some common hull mods. That's actually pretty cool. Strip before auto-fitting. Always add reinforced bulkheads. Always add blast doors. I see that these are always really good ones to have. And randomize weapons and hull mods. Makes the loadout only loosely based on the goal variant. That's really, really interesting. Spend free OP. Spend any unused ordnance points on flux vents, capacitors, and essential hull mods. Will not make any changes to weapons loadouts. Will not affect ship modules, if any, and will not spend any credits. Oh, that's interesting. So if you've set it up the way you want, you can just click on that, and boom, it'll distribute things as it sees fit. Well, that's actually kind of cool. It's cool to know that that is an option available to us, but I actually enjoy setting up ships. So by and large, I'm not going to use that option. What we will do, though, is I'm going to reposition my fleet as such. There we go. Now, with all of the... I tend to try and have them in like a class or ship hull size order. So biggest first, down to smallest, and then to civilian. But with that done, I'm going to quickly name the ships, and then we're going to enjoy a little bit of refitting. So see you in a moment. Okay, welcome back. We have now got the ISS Soulwind, the ISS Fui. Thank you ever so much for being patron supporters. We are keeping the ISS Taliesin. The Welsh in me demands that this be kept, so we're keeping it. That's just the way that's going to be. But now then, we've got a chunky ship here to have a look at. Now, all right, okay, so these hybrid points are either energy or ballistic. Okay, that's quite good to see. Right, first and foremost, going to strip it down. What kind of missiles do we want on this? What kind of role do we want these missiles to fill? We've got Annihilator rocket pods. Fires a spread of unguided rockets. I could spend an age poring over the numbers and the details and refitting these ships, and I'm sure some of you would enjoy it, but I really can spend an enormously long time. So I'm going to do you all a solid, and I'm going to cut out me umming and ahhing over the various setups, but just understand that I have spent some time running simulations and trying to get a reasonable balance of systems and mods on all of the ships, and this is the end result. We have the ISS Soulwind with 2 light machine gun point defense turrets at the flanks, at the rear flanks, 2 long-range point defense laser turret at the forward flanks, and these will help out in attacking enemies as well, and that's why these are the long range variants, so they're much better range. In fact, they're better range than my main cannons, which are medium ballistic heavy mortars. We've also got some harpoon medium range missiles to help out as well. Mostly gone for vent over capacitors just to try and get closer to the full weapon flux, so I can have my shield up and mostly dissipate the flux coming from my weapons, but that's not even to begin with the shields. We've also got some auxiliary thrusters to make turning around a little bit better, and we've got some blast doors and reinforced bulkheads on this ship because it's got a bit of a bigger crew. I have mostly switched over to reinforced bulkheads instead of the blast doors for the other ships, though, because I feel that they offer much better hull, and they have generally smaller crews, and so we're probably not going to lose too many when we have hull damage anyway. So trying to keep the ship from falling apart is probably going to save more crew than just having a couple of extra bulk doors so that we don't vent 1 or 2 people when a bullet goes through the hull. I know it's terrible to say, but it's the needs of the many, you know. We've got the ISS Fui Iceway. getting killed by the ISS Fui. Wow. Mining lasers, harpoons, and heavy blasters, whereas the Harlock still has the same setup as before. And then the ISS Taliesin has Annihilator rocket packs, a railgun, 2 light dual autocannons, and then some Vulcan cannons for its point defense. I've tried to balance out the capacitors where and vents where I can, and this is generally the fleet as it stands. Now, with all of the time spent getting the fleet ready, it is now time for us to get out there and use it, or at least not die straight away. If we don't die straight away, I will consider that a victory in and of itself. But that is it for that. I'm going to do it just so the notification goes away, but yeah, if we lose ships, that's just the way that this story is going to roll. That's just how that one goes. However, let's go ahead and just do one little bit of something. Do I want to switch over to the ISS Soulwind, or do I want to continue captaining the Harlock? I kind of do want to continue captaining the Harlock. I'm going to... Let's have a look. Yeah, my maneuverability and top speed will probably benefit the Soulwind a little bit more. Okay, let's switch around our positioning right now. We can mentor a subordinate, which will allow us to further influence their career path. It will give them more skills to choose from when they level up. Typically, they've got about 5 levels they can have, but though there are some officers you'll get who are already beyond level 5 and have equivalent more skills. But you can also affect the way their personality develops. Right now, it was steady, kind of chooses the best in the situation as far as they can tell. They're not particularly cautious or defensive. They're not particularly aggressive or indeed reckless. But I think we might. We're going to mentor, because the use of the story point now will give us will pay us back very quickly as they level up nice and fast, and we get more and a better selection of skills to pick from with each level up. But whilst they're in the Wolf class, I'd like them to be a little bit more aggressive. Yeah, chase them down. There you go. Okay, well, with that done, let's go and pick ourselves a fight, shall we? We have to head over here. Now, we want to try and make sure that we don't end up getting pulled into a big pitched battle against 2 enemy fleets. And for this reason, I'm now going to go dark. There we are. That will have dropped. You may have noticed the little indicator of sensors back there. That was the range that they could see me with my transponder on. And so I went dark just as I left their range. So they've got nothing to worry about and won't even know that I've done it. Now then, let's see. No one showing up on radar. I'm not going to ping, because that would give me away. There we go. We've got 1 contact, 2 contacts. Okay. Now then, what have we got? Can I get any further information? Yes, we've got a little bit of extra information there. Okay, that's not a bad... I wonder if I can get their attention. If I stop going dark and maybe fly around here a little bit, can I draw you out? Would you like to come say hello? Hello? There we go, got your attention. Emergency burning back, that's a shame. Okay, it might be a little bit more tricky, but I can throw them out of position with each other at the very least. There we are. Come on down. If I can get one of you to go through the asteroid belt, then that's going to be amazing. Oh, I've got your attention. Yeah, you're really on the way. Right, going dark and moving in. It looks like I've still pulled all of them, unfortunately. Okay, well, they said we might be able to do it. They've got a rocket cruiser. Okay, well, maybe not. They've got a Buffalo Mark II support destroyer, 2 of them. They've got a standard combat freighter. They've got 2 kites. The kites shouldn't be too bad. They've also got mining pod auxiliaries. This might be a tricky one. We could attempt to disengage. Attempt to retreat from battle. The opposing fleet may pursue and force a battle, or may let you go. As the enemy remains in control of the battle space, you won't be able to conclude any salvage operations. If your fleet hasn't taken any hostile actions, disengaging without damaging any pursuing ships will do the least damage to your standing with the opposing faction. Nah, let's just go for it. We're just going to go straight in. We're not going to transfer command. I'm in command of the ship that I wish to be in command of. We're going to take everyone in with us. It is smart enough to know not to bring in non-combat ships, but you can force the issue if you really want to. We don't, rather obviously, but there we go. Okay, so how are we going to do this one? First and foremost, I would like the kite to... I would like to have medium escort or a light escort. Let's go for medium escort. We'll bring 2 of them along. The other 2, you can do your own thing for now. Okay, let's try not to hit that. Oh, wow. My maneuverability is a lot better with me in command. That wasn't taken into account during the simulations as my personal skills. Right, now, as for our enemies, I would like you, the combat freighter, perhaps, just engage and generally kept busy. Alternatively, I could harass one of them, just take them out of the fight. I would like it if you were harassed. So one of the wolves, in fact, my subordinate will go and take care of that. Great. If you could be harassed as well, just to kind of keep you busy and away from me while we try to pick these guys off bit by bit. Right. Putting up shields. Moving in, my point defense lasers should help out a little bit. Ooh, wow, have you not got shields? That's fantastic for me, terrible for you. In fact, if that's the case, I'm just going to go straight in with my special ability so I can fire fast and recklessly. And there we go, already got 1 kill. Perfect. Keep the shield up. And now the missile's gone, we will let my flux go down a little bit. We need to get up there and help out. Okay, well, let's move forward then. Let's see, shields up. Should be able to deal with that. Oh, well, that exploded rather heavily, but sure. Right, let's try and take you guys out of this fight as well, if I can. Let's do a little bit of damage to these mining drones, where possible. I would really like it if we could try and deal with you nice and fast, but you are rising my flux much more so than I would like. And my weapon system is a little bit too slow. Right, let's get in there and actually apply a lot of pressure to this tiny little ship as quickly as we can. Right, shields down. I'd like to launch my missiles. Shields up. Are we going to be able to overload you? Yes, there we go. And it's gone. Okay, not too bad. That was a kite, though. You have to use missiles for it. The wolf is doing a great job there of harassing, which is absolutely fantastic. So that's 2 of them down. We are regenerating command points as time goes on. Now then, I'm going to say I'm going to cancel the need for my escort, and I'm going to ask you to instead engage over there. I'll go and try and deal with the kite myself. I also need to vent my flux rather badly. Let's get down there. I told you not to engage the kite. I told you to engage... okay, fine. Well, I'll go and engage the other one then. My lord. Oh, wow, you just took a broadside of missiles. That was not good. Okay, I need to avoid doing the same thing. Okay, you need to not be alive anymore, please, and thank you. Right. Fire all of the missiles, all of the guns all the time, rather. There we are. Took a couple of shots to the engines, sadly, but okay. Right. I was about to launch my missiles, but there's no need once your armor was down. Okay, all that remains then. Now, I would like to focus fire if I could. I would very much like you to be engaged. Just continue. Really? Caridwen? Game, are you... Do you know that I'm Welsh? Is that... Oh, these AIs. This is a coincidence, of course, but a kind of interesting one, nevertheless. My lord. So many Welsh mythological names. Right, let's get in there. Actually, I say mythological names. I've got several friends named Kibridwen as it happens, but they are names from Welsh mythology as well. There we are. It's disabled, but we are getting reports that their combat readiness is going to start dropping soon. Okay, now that we've done everything, it's time to go in for the kill. Assault. Be a little bit more reckless. We've got a massive numbers advantage. Let's end this fight before your combat readiness starts to struggle. There we go. Let's get right in there. All the guns all the time. Please don't move in front of the giant ship shooting big bullets. My lord, you just want to die. I don't even. Really, I don't. Got to try and melt through its armor where we can without, hopefully, taking too much damage ourselves. Alright, launch my missiles. Shields are down. All of the missiles, please. And that should end this fight fairly quickly. It's overloaded massively. Everyone put pressure up. That was a bit of a risky shot. Will you please get out of the way? My lord. Right. Fast firing. We can see where the armor is being eroded from our concentrated firing. The engines are gone at this point. And the hull is taking massive amounts of damage. But let's end this fight quickly if we can. This thing is soaking up so much damage, but there wasn't an end this fight quickly option really there when we think about it. But there we go. Wasn't too bad. We ended up having to fight the full fleet all at once, but not too terrible. Your forces were able to gain a complete victory in the last engagement. The salvage chief reports that several ships disabled or destroyed during the battle can be restored to basic functionality. Recovering ships instead of breaking them for salvage will greatly reduce the salvage gained from the ships. That's reasonable. Okay, it's not the big chunky point. No, we can't get the big chunky point. I honestly would have taken it. I would have mothballed it. I would have stored it somewhere. I would have come back when I had the time. Bit of a shame, but that's fine. We could take the support destroyer, I guess, but I don't think we want to. I think we're happy with what we've got right now. So I'm good with just continuing and salvaging the everything. They did not like that. Okay, so we picked up 3,125 credits from CPU cores still active in the wreckage. And then a decent amount of supplies, along with a Pelham long-range missile launcher, which goes into a medium-range missile slot. This is an example of a missile that doesn't have an ammo capacity. It just doesn't cost anything to fire. It has a combat-rated autoloader system, which ensures continual usefulness in protracted engagements. The Pelham, I believe, is a very long-range missile. Yeah, it's got 10,000, but it's slow. And it's not very good at tracking. So, I mean, you know, it pays for it in lots of ways. There's other ones as well. The Salamander, for example, I believe is a pretty good one since it will directly try to hit the engines of a ship. It'll literally fly around it and circle back in. Very nice for dealing with swift and exceedingly annoying little craft that want to fly away all the time. Okay, we've got a kite-class shuttle. Very well, let's go and take care of that. We will just straight up salvage this one for a few extra bits and pieces. And with that, now, there's a couple of things you can do here. At this point, you can be the hero that the people of Galatia need. And you can just go ahead and try and open the jump gates. Or you can be the hero that your bank account needs by taking this moment to go and salvage all the debris fields, wipe out any other pirate fleets that happen to be nearby, and if you end up with a glut of supplies you don't need, sell them to the market, which is currently in desperate need for them, and will pay you a lot more money than they will otherwise. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying that as a space captain, you've got to be aware of all of the information so that you can make an informed choice. Okay? Your moral compass may be perfectly well adjusted, but there's no harm in knowing what you could do. That's all I'm saying. But it's also the end of the video, I'm afraid. I didn't want to end it with just having popped around and grabbed a few odds and sods. We'll decide what we're going to do. by the next video, you'll find out what kind of space captain we're going to be. But that is going to be the end of today's episode. I really do hope you enjoyed. We will take our level up in the next, and indeed possibly have a little poke around and see what else we can do before we open up these gates. So we'll decide. Am I going to be drinking tea or am I going to be drinking coffee? Is going to be the decider. But that is going to be it from me. So until next time, and as always, from myself, the Nikoshana, Obsidian Mist, Oak, Fui, Soulwind, Taliesin as well, and the sadly destroyed Caribou. Take care, everyone, and fly safe.